Should Jake Paul be respected for stepping in a ring with Anthony Joshua? And does the Heisman Trophy race create unneeded and unnecessary controversy? Find out next.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Matt Chuck, aka your worst nightmare. Matt Chuck, aka your worst nightmare. Matt Chuck, aka your worst nightmare. Matt Chuck. Welcome in. This isn't the highlight show. It's the real conversations. Welcome back to the Mac Truck Podcast. My name is Mac, talking sports, culture, and competition the way the fans actually do. Facts, content, and real talks. Let's run it. Today, we're talking the results of the Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua fight, along with the unfortunate fatal car crash that Anthony Joshua was involved in, coupled with the Heisman Trophy results and the Diego Pavia controversy that stemmed after the results of the Heisman Trophy race, as well as some college football chats in terms of the upcoming bowl games for the first week of January, as well as the quarterfinals for the college football playoff race. So let's get into it. Welcome in again. You're listening to the Mac Truck Podcast, presented to you by Spotify for creators, StreamYard, Podbean, and wherever else you get your audio streaming pleasure. Listen, just about 10 days ago, December 19th, Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul stepped in a boxing ring on Netflix for a 6-round heavyweight bout. Unfortunately for Jake Paul, did not fare his way. If you saw the fight, you know that he got knocked out in the 6th round. Now, some people are saying that the controversy in terms of the fight itself is that Anthony Joshua supposedly broke script. Some people are saying that it's not a script. There's always going to be this controversy when it comes to Jake Paul or Logan Paul with these boxing matches, seeing as how neither one of them are true pro circuit boxers. Personally, I think Jake Paul is a decent boxer. I've said it before. I have a lot of respect for him after watching his documentary Problem Child on Netflix. I will say, however, I have a little bit more respect for him going into the ring with Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua, two-time former heavyweight boxing champion on the pro circuit. If you know boxing, you know about Anthony Joshua. I don't have to sit here and, give you his resume. If you know boxing, if you watch boxing, you know all about Anthony Joshua. And the way he broke Jake Paul's jaw is nuts to me. And it was kind of great. If you watch the fight and you know boxing, all Jake Paul did was run. All he did was run. He ran around the ring. Obviously, people have been arguing that, you're supposed to move around in boxing. Moving around in boxing and staying in front of your opponent and earning the respect of your opponent is completely different from ducking and running in squares. We're going to get to some of the stats for both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua here in just a little bit. Jake Paul did break his jaw in 2 different spots. He did have to have surgery, had surgery about a day and a half after the fight itself. He also rolled his ankle. Obviously, there's been, photos and videos of Jake Paul pre-surgery and post-surgery with the braces and the big jaw, like the big jaw replacement itself. And he had a giant cuff on his ankle. But that's what happens in sports. You don't play boxing. You don't play boxing. You may play other sports, but boxing is not something you play. Boxing is something that you do. And then for those of you who haven't really been up to speed in terms of the reasoning for Anthony Joshua stepping in to take this fight, this original fight was slated for not Anthony Joshua, but Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. But the Gervonta Tank Davis fight did get revoked from Tank Davis due to more allegations coming up of domestic violence from his previous relationship and a previous girlfriend in terms of Tank Davis. Now, coming into this fight, I was very excited because I'm like, okay, he is getting into the ring with a former 2-time heavyweight champion. He was getting into the ring with a multiple weight, multiple class, multiple belt champion in Gervonta Tank Davis, one of the best smaller weight boxers to step in the ring, one of the best heavyweight boxers to step in the ring in terms of Anthony Joshua. And I think a lot of people have looked at these types of fights as spectacles, and rightfully so. I mean, Jake Paul's boxing resume isn't exactly boxer friendly. He fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He fought Anthony Joshua just last week. He fought retired Mike Perry from the UFC. He fought Ben Askren from the UFC. He fought Nate Robinson, who was a basketball player. So his he also fought Tommy Fury, who is still a pro boxer on the boxing circuits. Obviously, the younger brother protege of heavyweight great Tyson Fury as well. So his boxing resume isn't exactly boxer friendly. He has fought boxers, but he has fought very little amounts of boxers that are actively still in the boxing circuit. So that's one thing that people have kind of used against him. I am guilty. I'm one of those people. But it takes a lot of courage to be like, well, I want to show people that I can actually do it. But you got your ass knocked out, Jake Paul. I'm sorry. And I'm not even sorry that he went off script, because everybody knew that there was a speculation of this being rigged or being, placed in your favor. A real boxer, and I'm not saying that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Tommy Fury aren't actual boxers, because they absolutely are. They have the resumes and they have the pedigrees to prove it. But any real boxer with dignity is not going to, shy away from their script in terms of knowing the sport, being dedicated to the sport, having put in time, countless hours, countless blood, sweat, and tears, countless training sessions for this sport. There was no way in this green earth that Anthony Joshua was about to walk out of that ring with an L on his record to somebody who he should not even really be in the ring with. Like, I'm just keeping it a band. Anthony Joshua had no business being in the ring with Jake Paul. Jake Paul had no business being in the ring with Anthony Joshua. And as you saw, and Anthony Joshua, mind you, if you watched the punch he threw that knocked Jake Paul out, Jake Paul's face as he hit the ground was like, oh, like, I feel his power. My guy, that wasn't even his full power. Let's just keep that in mind. Anthony Joshua was kind of keeping it light on you, my guy. He ain't hit you with full power. He didn't even load up all the way. Like, that was a practice pad shot. And the fact that you got knocked out with a practice pad shot by a former two-time heavyweight champion tells me that there's no way in hell you would be able to handle a full power shot from a heavyweight, let alone even a Gervonta Tank Davis, who weighs significantly less. Jake Paul said once he heals up, once he gets this time off to get healed and together, he's going to go back down to cruiserweight. There's going to be the same thing. I'm going to tell you right now, especially if you find a boxer that's looking to get back in the win column, get back, start to get their resume and get their career back going, and they hit you like that, dog, you're fried like chicken. I don't know what to tell you. Like, no disrespect, but you gonna be fried if you keep messing with these people. I think the best thing for you to do, Jake Paul, is to rest up, find a different coaching staff, frankly, and maybe consider actually inserting yourself into the sanctioned pro circuit of boxing. Like, let's just keep it 100. You keep running your mouth and talking all this mess, talking all this schmack, okay? You've backed it up a little bit and then got knocked out. And since we're not doing the live show right now, but if we were doing a live show in terms of our video portion of the show, I would literally insert a clip of the scene of Smokey standing over homie talking about, you got knocked the F out. That's what happened to you, Jake Paul. Now, we're going to get into some stats here, because these stats were obviously very, very low, very not typical of a normal 8-round, 12-round, 10-round boxing match. It was a 6-round heavyweight boxing match, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Round 1 for Jake Paul landed 2 shots out of a 10 attempted. Round 2 landed 1 shot out of 6 attempted. Round 3 landed 3 shots out of 5 attempted. Round 4 landed 5 shots out of 13 attempted. Round 5, landed 5 of 16. And round 6, he did not land anything, and he attempted 6. Anthony Joshua, round 1, landed 2 out of 11. Round 2, landed 4 of 26. Round 3, landed 7 of 25. Round 4, 4 of 19. Round 5, 20 of 35. And round 6, 11 of 20. And obviously in that 6th round got knocked out just right in the middle of that 6th round. And looking from these stats between the two, even Anthony Joshua, who wasn't throwing full power, was obviously still getting more volume. The highest attempt of shots Jake Paul sent out was 16. The highest amount of shots Jake Paul, or Anthony Joshua rather, attempted was 19 and 35, 19, 20, and 35. So if that doesn't tell you the giant discrepancy between the two athletes, just as athletes, I don't know what does. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you this. Anthony Joshua is not to be played with. Anthony Joshua also called out Tyson Fury at the end of the fight, and I was for it. Tyson Fury has been dodging Anthony Joshua. Everybody and anybody knows it. Okay. And I frankly think it's rather entertaining to the fact that Tyson Fury has, retired a bunch of times, all the things, and suddenly had all these things to say on Twitter, Twitter X, whatever you want to call the platform. He had all the things to say, and Anthony Joshua responded, and we have yet to hear anything from Tyson Fury. Now, moving on to the final punch stats in terms of totals across the board. So total jab and total body shots for Jake Paul. Total landed was 16 out of 56, with 2 power shots landed at, or 2 jabs landed at just under 29% at 28.6% to be exact. Jabs landed total 7 out of 34, with 1 significant shot at 20.6% to the body. Power landed total 9 out of 22, with 1 significant shot at 40.9%, so just under 41% for Jake Paul. Anthony Joshua total landed 48 shots landed out of an attempted 146, with 12 significant shots, jabs at just under 53% at 52.9. In terms of your jabs, 20.1% or 20.9% rather, out of 14 landed and 67 attempted, with 3 significant shots. And as far as power, 34 shots landed, 9 significant shots landed to the body with power out of 79 for 43% exactly. And again, if these stats don't physically show you the discrepancy between the two athletes in general, it literally writes a story. There's zero reason why Jake Paul should have even mentioned a Tank Davis or an Anthony Joshua in the realm of boxing, or even trying to box him. Like, let's just keep it 100% right now. Unfortunately, while we're still talking about boxing, we do have to kind of switch over into a somber topic that still does involve one of the fighters on this main card of boxing we were just talking about just yesterday. And again, depending on when you're listening to this, yesterday, Monday, December 29th, Anthony Joshua was involved in a fatal car crash in Nigeria, losing 2 of his coaching staff while they were on the way to just a little bit of a light training session, or kind of sightseeing around Nigeria while they were back there. So we are going to give a moment of silence for everybody involved and the 2 coaches that lost their life. And then we're going to get into something that's really bothering me about this fatal car crash. Thank you for that. Now, I don't have any, obviously, anybody that has an issue with the fact that a car crash happened. That's one thing. My issue is there were spectators filming this car crash. Like, there were spectators filming the fact that Anthony Joshua and 2 of his coaches just got into a fatal car crash. Let that sink in. First of all, neither one of you have the unmitigated goal to stand there and film as obviously Anthony Joshua is being dragged out of the vehicle. Clearly not okay. Clearly discombobulated. Clearly in a daze. Has some significant injuries from the car crash, and you folks are out here filming it. Like, how disgusting could you be? Like, I couldn't imagine being a professional athlete and being in the limelight like that. Obviously, anybody that knows me personally, I've, been working on trying to become a fully paid professional athlete. I play 4 different sports. Either way, even as a semi-pro athlete, I couldn't imagine being in a limelight or a similar limelight like that, getting injured in a car crash or being involved in something that physically hurts myself or somebody else and people filming it. Why the hell didn't y'all stick in to help? Why didn't y'all try to help diffuse the situation, move people out of the way? Maybe, there, and then obviously some parts of Nigeria, are a little bit more well off than other parts of the country. That part's not, the issue. The issue is why are you standing there filming the damn thing? Like, that is probably the most disgusting thing a human being can do, is just sit there and be an innocent bystander while something egregious is happening. But we're going to move back into more the positive lights of this Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua card. Alycia Baumgardner retains her WBO, IBF, and WBA women's junior lightweight titles. She won, obviously, by unanimous decision. And the best part about this boxing match that she had with Layla Boudouin was the fact that it was an actual title fight. It was an actual, in terms of length, it was 12 3-minute rounds, which is exactly what championship men's boxing is 12 3-minute rounds. A normal women's championship match is 10 2-minute rounds. Women's boxers and women's combat artists, much like myself, have been clamoring for years and years and years to make the sanctioned times equal for men and women. And everybody keeps going back to the it's anatomy thing. It's not an anatomy thing. It is literally a cardiovascular thing. For whatever reason, and obviously this is still, but some parts of boxing combat sports are still in its infancy in terms of the acceptance of women playing, participating, fighting, that type of thing. It is still in its infancy, so and that's why we have the smaller weight classes. We don't have a lot of the heavier weight classes like boxing and combat sports do for men. There's a lot of the smaller weight classes for women, which is completely fine. At least we're getting opportunities for women to progress in the sport. And the more it progresses, the more women are going to want to, become boxers or get back into it, that type of thing. And you start by starting to equal out the playing fields, which starts with increasing the time. Now, on top of Alycia Baumgardner retaining these belts, she did have to relinquish her WBC title because that governing body does not sanction women's 3-minute rounds, which I think is absolutely heinous. I think it's crazy. I think it's ridiculous. And there's no form of argument or debate or science that's going to sit here and change anybody's mind. You will not sit here and tell me or anybody else that women cannot go 12 rounds for 3 minutes. It literally has just been proven. It literally has just been proven. Clarissa Shields has been clamoring for it for the longest. Alycia Baumgardner has, and now MVP for promotions, which is the sports promotion that Jake Paul runs. That was the part of the sanctioning body that this fight card was under, and this fight card again was at the Casillas Center in Miami, Florida, just over a week and a half ago. So, like I said, the only way we start to grow women's sports, because obviously, again, this is a women's sports friendly podcast. We talk women's sports, NBA, WNBA, Olympic sports, collegiate sports. We talk sports, period. We focus a lot on women's sports. We focus a lot on the women's side of things, but we are inclusive here. Sports do not have a gender, damn it. And I will sit here and say it till I'm blue in the damn face. Sports do not have a gender, and this is a prime example of it. Point blank, period. Moving on into another highlight of this boxing card, which is, to me, that this was probably my favorite outside of obviously the co-main and the main event, was 2 former UFC greats, 2 former UFC champions duking it out in the boxing ring. Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley. Anderson Silva gets the knockout at age 50. Again, if you watch the fight card itself across the board was phenomenal. Like I just said, Anderson Silva still got it at age 50, gets the knockout win over fellow UFC former fighter Tyron Woodley in round 2 at cruiserweight. Anderson Spider still got it. And frankly, I don't see him hanging up the gloves just yet. I mean, my theory is if go until your body physically tells you that we can't do it no more. Some people want to call it stupidity. Some people want to call it, being crazy. When you're dedicated to a sport or you're dedicated to an entity, it just happens. I mean, I don't really know what else to tell you. But listen, big shout out to Truth Studios and In My Bag Apparel and Customs for holding us down always, whether you're at the gym, at the game, or watching the game from the couch. Truth Barbershop Studios and In My Bag Apparel fits the lifestyle. Check them out at truthshop.com, Facebook, Instagram at InMy_bag 2023, and the Whatnot app, as well as bigcartel.com for all things In My Bag Apparel and all things Truth Barbering Shop. Listen, different topic, same energy. Let's get into it. The Heisman Trophy race for 2025. Listen, this Heisman Trophy race, I think, had been rather the most versatile in terms of the types of quarterbacks and positions that were in the top 4. Fernando Mendoza wins the Heisman Trophy, the first Indiana Hoosier in school history to win the Heisman Trophy, the first Cuban American to win the Heisman Trophy, beating out obviously the other 3 finalists. Fernando Mendoza had 643 points total. Diego Pavia, the quarterback for the Vanderbilt Commodores, came in second place with 189 points. We'll get to the controversy that this caused for him here in just a minute. Jeremiah Love, running back out of the University of Notre Dame, came in third place with 46 points. And Julian Sayin, the freshman phenom quarterback for the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, came in at 4th place with 8 votes. Mendoza led the Indiana Hoosiers this year to its first Big Ten championship since the 1960s. Everybody knows that I'm an Iowa fan. Obviously, Iowa and Indiana are in the same conference. The last time the Iowa Hawkeyes had a national championship in football, the Jacksons were being born. Okay, the Grand Ole Opry was just being a thing. My daddy was born. So a lot of these newer school blue bloods, as I like to call them, are finally starting to get up there in recognition. They're finally starting to build the program that they've always wanted. And with now Coach of the Year Kirk Cignetti coming from JMU, just James Madison University, where he rebuilt that program, took the Indiana Hoosiers to the second round of the college football playoffs last year and losing to Notre Dame. And then this year, almost turning it full circle, gaining a Fernando Mendoza, gaining a bunch of players out of the transfer portal. Essentially, people, the people, when I say people, I mean, obviously the big sports media, sanctioned sports media, coveted sports media, things like that are calling them the group of misfits because they literally turned a team of individuals and turned them into a well-oiled machine coming from all different schools, with Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cignetti leading the way. Kirk Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Caleb DeBoer will be facing each other in the second round quarterfinals of the CFP this week. We'll get to the bowl preview here in just a minute. I am frankly excited for the end of college football in terms of seeing who's going to do what. I cannot wait. But we got to flip gears really quick. So going back to our question at the top of the show. Does the Heisman Trophy race create unneeded and unnecessary rivalries and controversy? For those of you who don't know, and I'm not sure who doesn't know by now, and some of the things we are talking about are just a little bit backdated because we, took a break, obviously, for the holidays, all the things. Either way, this is an important topic to talk about because it kind of goes along with what we talked about a couple of weeks ago about teams and people giving up and lashing out when they don't get what they want. Now, everybody or anybody that has watched college football this year, specifically the SEC, specifically the Vanderbilt Commodores, specifically Diego Pavia. After losing the Heisman Trophy race to Fernando Mendoza, posted on his Instagram story, and I'm just going to quote it because we don't hold back here. There's no media filters here on the Mac Truck podcast. Fuck all the voters. Obviously, clearly expressing his anger with the fact that he lost to Fernando Mendoza. Now, I will just go ahead and say it like this. I completely understand that you were upset. I completely understand that you were angry. I completely understand that you thought, obviously, being in the top four, y'all have a 1 in 4 chance to win. Y'all have a 25% chance win between the four of y'all to win the Heisman race. Diego Pavia and Coach Clark Lee, took Vanderbilt from what it was and what it was building up to, from having the female kicker be the first female to play D1 collegiate football, regardless if it was a skills position, she was playing and suited up. They built from that and have now at one point had placed the Vanderbilt Commodore football team in the conversations for the CFP. Obviously, some of the other at-large teams in the SEC beat them out. Frankly, I think Alabama doesn't deserve to be in, and I will say that until I'm blue in the face. Fact of the matter is, Diego Pavia has been very controversial. He has been very pivotal. He's been very out there and in your face, getting attention. He has a lot of moxie. He's also very cocky. He's also very mouthy, but that's what fuels his team. That's who he is as a person in terms of his competitive nature. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I would do something different because I've never been in that situation. They also found a video that surfaced in New York with a sign of him saying, fuck Indiana, blatantly, obviously referring to Fernando Mendoza of the Indiana Hoosiers after obviously winning that coveted title. He did later apologize for his emotions, admitting that he mishandled them, and also acknowledged Mendoza deserving the honor. Now, I obviously watch a lot of football, know football, played football in a lot of, social groups, things like that. I also have a lot of SEC friends. I have a lot of different sources in terms of people who follow the SEC, who are around the SEC football, that type of thing. A lot of people do not like Diego Pavia because of how brash he is. And I'm just sitting here thinking, is it how brash he is, or is it the fact that he plays for a team that you don't like? It could go either way. The fact of the matter is, at some point, you have to realize that you're not going to win everything. You're not going to win them all. You're not always going to get what you want. So how do you learn to maneuver from there? How do you learn to maneuver those emotions when you don't get your way? Because 97% of the time, you're probably not going to get your way. 97% of the time, you're probably not going to win. You're probably not going to get that award that you thought you deserved, because there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody working harder than you. That's just the way life is. And with that, we got a new lane, same drive. Let's get into it. College football playoff round 1 recap and college football playoff quarterfinal preview and some other bowl games and predictions. The Alabama Crimson Tide came in at number 8 in the first round, beat Oklahoma, who was number 9, 34-24. James Madison came in at number 12, facing the Oregon Ducks and Coach Dan Lanning at number 5. They unfortunately did get waxed. James Madison loses 34-51 in favor of the Oregon Ducks. Tulane Blue Wave came in at number 11. They also got waxed by the Ole Miss Rebels 41-10. Miami Hurricanes beat Texas A&M, came in at number 10. Texas A&M was number 7. Miami Hurricanes came in winning 10-3. Now, moving into the preview for the quarterfinals of the College Football National Playoff bracket. Miami coming in at number 10, who is 11-2, will face the Ohio State University Buckeyes, the current national college football champions, coming in at 12-1. That game is tomorrow, December 31st at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. That is the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. The Ohio State Buckeyes are a 9.5-point favorite. Moving into some of these games here on January 1st, the Alabama Crimson Tide, still at number 9, 11-3 on the season, will face Kirk Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, and the Indiana Hoosiers, who are still undefeated at 13-0. They did have a bye week the first week. Indiana is a 7-point favorite. That game is at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN as well. The Oregon Ducks, still at number 5, will face Texas Tech, who had a bye week the first round at number 4. Texas Tech is 12-1. Oregon is also 12-1. Oregon is a 2.5-point favorite. That game is at 12 p.m., 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on ESPN for the Orange Bowl. The Sugar Bowl is also as follows. Number 6, Ole Miss versus number 3, SEC champions and the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia is 12-1. Ole Miss is also 12-1. Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite. That game is at 8 o'clock on 8 o'clock tomorrow night, or January 1st, rather, so Thursday on ESPN. And just to kind of go over some other bowl games here, number 18, Michigan versus number 13, Texas. Both of them are 9-3 in the Citrus Bowl at 1500. That's 3 o'clock Eastern Time on ABC. Unranked Nebraska, who is 7-5, will play in the Vegas Bowl versus number 15, Utah, who's 10-2. That game is at 15:30, so 3:30 Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Arizona State, who is unranked, is 8-4, will play an unranked 8-5 Duke Blue Devils team for the Sun Bowl at 2 o'clock, 1400 hours Eastern Standard Time on CBS. And to close out the bowl preview for the first couple days of 2026, number 23, University of Iowa Hawkeyes at 8-4, will play the number 14 Vanderbilt Commodores with Coach Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, and Coach Kirk Barrett, and Mark Gronowski, Jacob Gill, and all the Hawkeyes over there in the Rely Quest Bowl. The Vanderbilt Commodores are a 5.5-point favorite. Listen, that's the buzzer on the Mac Truck Podcast today. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad that I have a voice. I tried so hard to get a show in last week, had no voice, felt like crap, caught whatever bug thing is going around. If y'all are out here catching whatever is out here, please be careful. Take care of yourself. It's still winter out here, y'all. We got to take care of ourselves, okay? Listen, if you rock with it, if you rock with the show, subscribe, rate, share it with somebody who really watches the game just like we do. Facts first, real takes. Stay tuned, stay sporty. Catch us on the next run.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Mac Truck, a.k.a. your worst nightmare.